if you go back to, for example, 1999, we kind of kicked off the decade of sales. The kickoff of Salesforce.com. I was carrying a bag back in those days, and you went from managing your territory with your gut. You went from thinking you were born to be a salesperson to the science of sales. And 2 years later, you couldn't get a job anywhere in sales, up or down the line, without deep CRM and sales tech skills on top of it. The next decade, about 10 years later, you had the decade of marketing. Small little companies at that time named Eloqua and Marketo and HubSpot and Pardot and Acton, to the point where the head of marketing in many companies spent more money on technology than the CIO. And so this just created an incredible environment for digital agencies, hundreds of thousands of companies that now 78% of them are technology companies. And while they still do creative and concierge and all the wonderful work they do, they're literally doing integrations, implementations. They're deep into e-commerce. I mean, this is a world-changing event where 10 years later now, we're in this decade of the ecosystem. And we know that in world trade last year, $94 trillion of world trade, 75% of it went indirectly. And the average customer, the average B2B customer, for example, has 7 different partners in the scope. So when you're talking about headless, when you're talking about e-commerce, when you're talking about marketplaces, when you're talking about how all this comes together, you're literally dealing with 7 different companies helping the customer along. And the point of sale is actually becoming less important as compared to how the customer gets to the dance.